Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is Word Origins 115. The word origin today is taboo. Okay, let's take a look at the note here. If we say that something is taboo, it is often a subject or activity that is against the rules, offensive, or socially considered to be something that one should avoid. Not do, especially because it causes offense or embarrassment. Things that are taboo can vary from one culture to another, especially things or actions considered repulsive, like almost like disgusting. Offends a religion, that's an important one, or something sacred. According to Sigmund Freud, there are only two universal taboos. Incest, having sex among family members. So like everywhere in every culture, that should be taboo. And patricide, killing your father or even matricide, killing your mother. These would be taboo in every religion throughout the world, everywhere. All right, let's continue. The term taboo entered the English language from the famous explorer Captain James Cook. He's very famous for traveling out in the Pacific there. He recorded it in a log in 1777 when he visited the island of Tonga. So it came from the language of Tongan, the people there. He described the word taboo, which, I guess sometimes you see it written as T-A-B-U or T-A-P-U, originally from the Tongan language, to have a broad meaning, including the meanings of sacred, holy, forbidden, unclean, cursed, prohibited. All of these were kind of mixed in it together to come up with the idea of taboo. So now you see why, there's so many things that could be in the taboo category. All right, let's continue. Other taboos throughout the world often include things related to sex, such as polygamy. And a lot of places, if you try to have several wives or husbands, that's considered taboo. But there are some places in the Muslim world, usually men are allowed to marry 4 women. And I think in Utah, there's some Mormons that like to marry, so they didn't consider that taboo. Pedophilia, of course, is having sexual intercourse with children. That should really be taboo everywhere. Bestiality, of course, this would mean having sex with animals, etc. So these are definitely things that fall into this sort of category. Other taboos include cannibalism. All right, throughout most of the world, this is probably taboo, but maybe some African tribes or some in the Amazon, may not consider that taboo. Dietary laws, some religions, they don't want you to eat pork or things like that. Do's and don'ts about dead bodies. You got to be careful what you do with them or don't do with them. Graves, etc. So all of these things could go under taboos. Some things in the West that generations ago were considered to be taboo have now been normalized. Yeah, so if something was taboo and now it didn't over time, it's not considered taboo. We say it has become normalized. All right, such as an unmarried couple living together before marriage. You remember in another video, I just mentioned that 1970 show Three's Company. That was one of the problems. The young guy and the 2 girls, they were not married. They wanted him to stay because he was such a good cook, and they wanted him to be the roommate. It was a funny show. It was supposed to be a comedy, situation comedy, sitcom. But the landlord at that time considered, no. If you're not married, no man and no woman can live in his apartment. So that's why he had to pretend to be gay in order to stay in this apartment. Okay. That's what the show was kind of centered around. So. But again, it just goes to show you that even in the early 1970s, this was still, among some people, considered to be taboo. Okay, good. Where today it's not, and young couples could go there. Nobody would ask or look strange at anyone. Homosexuality, of course, especially in the last 10 years, it's become a lot more accepted. And gay marriage as well, of course. Women showing bra straps. Now, this one is really kind of, on the low level. But, more than 20 years ago, that this might have seemed pretty strange. But nowadays, it's very fashionable for women to wear tops and their bra straps are hanging all over the place. And it's actually considered maybe even cool or fashionable. But at one time, it was maybe taboo. Women asking a man out, of course. I don't know if it's still not done most of the time, but it's not considered that weird anymore. Women wearing pants, of course, that goes way back. Women are wearing pants for a long time. But if you went back more than 100 years ago, it might have been considered taboo. Tattoos, of course. Again, it depends on the culture. A lot of cultures had tattoos. Actually, out in the Pacific, that's where a lot of tattoos were famous to begin with. But for a while, in many cultures, they maybe thought that maybe only bad people or people that were into crime or mafia or something might have been people that would have taboo. So at one time, it was considered taboo. All right, and here we just have one example here. In many Muslim countries, it is taboo to disrespect the Quran, their holy book. But you could say this really of any religion, that you shouldn't disrespect the Bible or the Torah or any of them. That should really never be done. But yes, it would be considered taboo if you disrespected it in some way. Okay, anyway, I hope you got it. I hope it was clear. I hope it was informative. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.